Hello students, I am Dr. Pallavi Gupta. As you know, I am teaching you election law. Today I am going to deliver lecture on the office of prophet. So therefore I will cover uh, the general idea about the office of prophet and how it is a qualification under the constitution of law. Regarding the general idea of there are several disqualification are prescribed by the Constitution of India for a person to be chosen as a member of parliament or state legislature. There is one qualification, then there is one disqualification that is holding, if a person hold a office of profit under the government of India or the government of any state under article 102 or under article 191, of course subclause 1 subclause A, that person shall be declared as a disqualified person for the member of parliament as well as for the state legislature. So now what is the meaning of holding of office of profit under the government of India or the government of any state? So we will discuss what is the meaning of office of profit or what is the meaning of office. So if we see the language of article 102 subclause 1 subclause A and article 191 subclause A subclause B, it says if a person shall be disqualified for being chosen as member of either house of parliament or in case of state legislature, member of state legislative council or state assembly, if he hold any office of the profit under the government of India or state or under the government of a state other than an office declared by the parliament or by the legislature of any state by law, he shall not be he shall not be qualified for member of the parliament or state legislature, means he shall be disqualified. However, Parliament in case of member of however, Parliament in case of the member of Parliament and the legislature of a state in case of its own member may be by law declare any office, the holder of which shall not be so disqualified on the ground that he is holding an office of the profit under the government. Means exception may be given there. A minister either for the union or for a state is not deemed to be holding an office of profit under the government for the purpose of such qualification as per the explanation mentioned in this articles. And a person holding an office of the profit under the government of India is not only disqualified for membership of parliament but is also disqualified for membership of the any state legislature. Likewise, a holder of office of the profit under any state government is disqualified for membership of the parliament and all state legislature in the country. Regarding the object, the real object behind this uh, disqualification to be made to become a member of parliament or state legislature. The underlying principle and real intention of the constitution maker is to keep the legislature independent of the executive, means there should not be any influence of the executive, it should be free from executive. It is desirable that the member of legislature should not feel themselves be burdened to the executive government and lost their independence of the thoughts and action in the discharge of their public duties as true representative of the people. This provisions this provision also acted as a check on the executive government of the union and the states to hold our blandishment to the member of the legislature so that um, the legislature would be free to carry out their duties to their electorates uninfluenced by any consideration of personal loss or gain. If the executive government had untrammeled power of offering to legislature any appointment, position or office which carry emoluments of some kind or other, it could result in conflict between the discharge of the public duties by them as legislature and their own private interest. So, the in the case of Shibu Soren, uh, the intention or the real object has been defined, tried to define by the Supreme Court, that what is to what is at stake is the right to contest an election, a very important right in an democratic setup. A ban on candidate must have a substantial and reasonable nexus to the object sought to be achieved. For example, elimination of or in any event reduction of possibility of misuse of the position which the concerned legislator holds or had held in the relevant time. The principle for debarring holders of the office of profit under the government from being member of parliament is that such person cannot exercise his function independently of the executive of which he becomes a part by receiving pecuniary gain. So, meaning thereby, if a person holds to office of profit, being a legislator, and that office of profit is under the government and attach some pecuniary advantage, the in that case, of course, the person will not be independent to take free action. So, object of enacting Article 101, subclause 1, subclause A, and 191, subclause 1, subclause A, namely that there should not be any conflict between the duties and interest of an elected member to ensure that the concerned legislature does not contain person who receive benefits from the executive and may on that account be under its obligation and thus amenable to its influence while discharging their legislative function. So now what is the meaning of office? Although term office has not been defined either in the Constitution of India or in the Representation of People Act 1951, although the court tried to interpret like that means office means a position which attach of course a position in a that a position in an office is related to a government or which attach certain duties, especially including the duties of public importance. Means there is a position and that position have certain duties and those duties are of mostly of the public importance. So uh, it is defined by or interpreted by the Supreme Court. And regarding the meaning of office of profit, regarding the meaning of office of profit, uh, it was says that although it is not defined again in the constitution uh, as well as in the RP Act, but office must be office of profit. To constitute an office of profit within the meaning of the articles as 102 subclause 101 A and 191 subclause 1 subclause and subclause A, uh, pecuniary advantages are attached with them, and these pecuniary advantages are measurable in the terms of money. It is an essential element. Means for the office of the profit means is constitute some pecuniary advantages which are measurable in the terms of money, and this is a essential element. Mere prestige and like advantage attached to an office are not sufficient to make an to make a office a office of profit. And Supreme Court held this that the term profit connotes the idea of pecuniary gain. If there is really a gain, its quantum or amount would not be material, but the amount of money received which is receivable by a person in connection with the office he holds may be material in deciding whether the office really carries any profit. Profit can be may be given by way of giving residence or the car with chauffeur or some or some mm, money, some other profit which are measurable in the terms of money. So, a office of profit really means an office in respect of which a profit occur may occur. It is not necessary that it should be possible to predict a predicate of a holder of an office of profit that he was bound to get a certain amount of profit irrespective of the duties discharged by him. If if advocate on panel of lawyers for the railway are getting some benefit, so it will be held to be holding an office of the profit, though he was paid only for those cases in which he was asked to appear by the railway. And again, in the case of Shibu Seren, it is highly relevant for determination of the question whether an office carries profit. In common parlance, the expression profit connotes an idea of some pecuniary gain. If there is really some gain, its level, honorarium, remuneration, salary is not material. It is the substance and not to the form which matters, and even the quantum or amount of pecuniary gain is not relevant. What needs to be what needs to be found out is whether the amount of money receivable by the concerned person in connection with the office he holds, it gives him to some pecuniary gain other than as a compensation. So it was the case of Sibusharan which clearly laid down that if a position, if a office is having a pecuniary gain, it will be office of the profit. And in the case of the next case I would like to mention here, that is yes, it was the case of Brijraj Singh versus. In one of this is the case is of the earliest case in 1953 for the opinion of the Election Commission under Article 192 subclause 2. The question was whether certain members of the Vindhya Pradesh Legislative Assembly had become disqualified for holding office of the Prophet on their appointment as member of the District Advisory Council. They were paid in addition to the travelling allowances, a daily allowances at the rate of rupees 5 for each days of the residence at the place where the meeting was held. The Commission opined that reimbursement of mere out-of-pocket expenses should not be treated as profit, but by making the daily allowances rates same for the resident and non-resident members, the members residing in the district headquarters where the council meeting took place should be deemed to have held office of profit. Accordingly, 12 to 60 members of the Legislative Assembly were declared disqualified. And this was the case of Biraj Singh, early case. And in the case of Jaya Bachchan, very famous case, that the Election Commission opined that Shrimati Jaya Bachchan became disqualified for being member of the Council of State on her appointment as chairperson of the Uttar Pradesh Film Development Council by the government of Uttar Pradesh. On her appointment, she was given the status of a cabinet minister and was entitled to certain salary allowances and other profits. Though she contended that she had not drawn any salary or allowances nor avail of any other facilities allowed to her, the Election Commission nevertheless held her to be Election Commission held that holding an office of the Prophet under the government of Uttar Pradesh, she was entitled to receive the said salary, allowances, etc. It does not matter she has never taken. The Supreme Court held before whom the Srimati Jaya Bachchan agitated her issue that the view taken by the Election Commissioner is correct. And Supreme Court hold that for deciding the question as to whether one is holding an office of profit or not, what is relevant is whether the office is capable of yielding a profit or pecuniary gain, and not whether the person actually obtain a monetary gain. If the pecuniary gain is receivable in connection with the office, then it becomes an office of profit, irrespective of whether such pecuniary gain is actually received or not. If the office carries with it or entitles the holder to any pecuniary gain other than reimbursement of out-of-pocket or actual expenses, then the office will be an office of profit for the purpose of Article 102 subclause 1 subclause A. So it is well settled that where the office carries with it certain emoluments or order of appointments states that the person appointed is entitled to certain emoluments, then it will be an office of profit even if the holder of the office chooses not to receive or draw such emoluments. What is relevant is whether the pecuniary gain is receivable in regard to the office and not whether pecuniary gain is received or received negligible. So the matter is clearly laid down that what is the meaning of office of profit. Now, what is the meaning of office under the government? A disqualification under Article 102 subclause 1 subclause A or Article 191 subclause A subclause 1 is attracted not by the mere holding of an office or an office of profit, but an holding an office of profit under the government of India or any state government. Thus, the question to be determined in such a case is that what constitutes an office under the government of India or any state government. In the case of Maulana Abdul Shakur versus Rikhab Chand, the question arose before the Supreme Court whether the manager of the Madrasa Dargah Khawa Shahid Akwari, a school run under the Dargah Khwaja Sahib Act 1955, was holding an office of the Prophet under the government as he was appointed by the administrator cum secretary of the Dargah committee, who was a nominee of the central government. The Supreme Court held that though the committee of the Dargah endowment was to be appointed by the government of India and its members were removable by the government, the committee was a body corporate with perpetual succession and its employees were not holder of office of profit under the government of India. It is a corporate entity only. As the uh, as the manager was neither this manager was neither appointed by the government of India nor was removable by the government, and nor was he paid out of the revenue of the government of India. He did not hold an office of the profit under the government of India and was thus not disqualified. The Supreme Court that the power of the government to appoint a person to a office or to continue him in the office or revoke his appointment at their discretion and payment from the out of government revenue are the important factors in determining whether the person is holding an office of profit under the government, though payment from a source other than the government revenue is not always a decisive factor. So it was clearly make that if the appointment or the removal and the payment of the uh, revenue is made from the government pocket, in that case it will be office of profit under the government. And the next case is Swami Imandar. What happened in this case? Okay, let me check this thing. Okay. Yes, in the case of Shiva Murthy Swami Imandar versus Agali Sangama, the test for determining the question whether a particular office is an office under the government or not, again elucidated by the Supreme Court in this case, and clearly, and it is settled that whether the test is to determine is: number one, whether the government makes the appointment; number two, whether the government has the right to remove or dismiss the holder; number three, whether the government pays remuneration; number four, what the function of the holders are in the office and whether he or does he perform these function for the government; and number five, does the government exercise any control over the performance of this function. So this is the test to determine whether it is an office of the profit under the government or not. Yes, the next point for the discussion is whether the office of the profit under the government and under the government company. If this question comes, what should be the answer? So it was answered by the Supreme Court in the case of Guru Gobind Basu case. Uh, here in this case, the director of a government company was held to be holding an office of the profit under the government, as he was appointed by the government, which had also the power to remove him and to fix his remuneration. But the position of the employees of the government company and corporations who are appointed by their boards of director or the authorities subordinate to them is different in law. So they have been held by the Supreme Court not to be holding office of profit under the government, and this decision is for the employee. But the director of a government company was held to be holding an office of the profit under the government, as he is appointed by the government. Now, there are certain offices which are declared by the law not to be office of profit, and they are exempted from the disqualification. So regarding this, the constitution makers make it clear that there may be certain office under the government to which appointments may be made of the person having special qualification, expertise or experience in certain fields, and whose services as member of the parliament, state legislature might also be of value in public interest. Therefore, constitution makers gave discretion to the parliament and state legislature to exempt such offices from the purview of the disqualificatory position or provisions relating to their respective houses. For example, under Article 102 subclause 1A and 191 subclause 1 subclause A, means there are certain offices which are exempted from the disqualification. Constitution makers considered it advisable to clarify in the constitution itself that a person holding an office of a minister either for the union or for any state shall not be deemed to be disqualified, as it is mentioned itself in the explanation of this article. Now the question comes, which office should be excluded? Now the question comes, which office should be excluded for the purpose of disqualification is a question that properly lies in the legislative domain, and whether an office of the profit is to be exempted is a matter to be considered by the parliament. Initially, parliament or enacted the Parliament Prevention of Disqualification Act 1950. It exempted certain offices from the purview of the disqualification under Article 102 subclause 1 subclause A. The list of the office so declared was later on supplemented by the Parliament in Parliament Prevention of Disqualification Act 1951 and the Prevention of Disqualification Act 1953. However, all these acts were repealed in 1959 and Parliament enacted a new comprehensive law on the subject called the Parliament Prevention of Disqualification Act 1959. In this act, Parliament has clarified that apart from the ministers or the ministers of the state and deputy minister for the union or for any state, whether ex officio or by name, shall not be disqualified, as doubts often arose whether the ministers of the state or deputy minister were also covered under the exemption given in the constitution to the ministry. So this was the answer for that. Parliament has also declared the office of leaders of opposition in the parliament, chief whip, deputy chief whip or whip in parliament and parliamentary secretary as such exempted office. In addition, Parliament has also listed out several statutory and non-statutory bodies under the central government and state government whose chairman, director and members shall not be disqualified on the ground of their holding office, provided they do not receive any remuneration other than the compensatory allowances. So, most of the state laws also follow the pattern of the our parliamentary law. And I would like to take one case over here, that Bhagwan Das Sehgal versus State of Haryana, that the Supreme Court has observed that this article 102 subclause 1 subclause A and 191 subclause 1 subclause A gives wide power to the legislator to declare by law what office or offices of the profit held under the government shall not disqualify the holders thereof from being chosen as member of legislature. Classification of such offices for the purpose of removing disqualification has been left primarily to the legislative discretion, so long as the legislative exercise this exemptive power reasonably and with the due restraint in a manner which does not drain out Article 102 subclause 1 and 191 subclause 1 of their real content, or disregard any constitutional guarantee or mandate. The court will not interfere with it. So it is clear, state legislature or the parliament is having a power if they are confined with the real intention of this article. Now there are laws removing which remove the disqualification with retrospective effect. Here I would like to take two cases, that is the Kantha case and Jaya Bachchan case. In the case of Kantha Kathuria versus M. Manak Chand Surana case, the Supreme Court held that Parliament and state legislature can make laws in exercise of their above exemptive power to operate retrospectively. The Supreme Court observed that any law that may be made prospectively may be made with retrospectively, with retrospective operation, except that certain kinds of laws cannot operate retrospective, but the statutes enacted removing the disqualification retrospectively are not one of them. These articles 102 subclause 1 and 191 subclause 1 reserve the power to legislature to make a declaration that the holder of an office shall not be disqualified, and there is nothing in the words of this article to indicate that such a declaration cannot be made with retrospective effect. So in that case, what happened, that the Supreme Court upheld the validity of the act, giving it retrospective effect, where in this case that this Rajasthan High Court set aside the election of the Shrimati Kantha Kathuria on the ground that she was holding an office of the profit under the state government. This is the case of state of Rajasthan. As a special government pleader, she was a special government pleader and she elected election, and her election was set aside by the Rajasthan High Court as she was holding an office of the profit under the state government. While the appeal against the order of the High Court was pending in the Supreme Court, the state legislature passed an act declaring that the office of the special government pleader shall not disqualify its holder for being a member of Rajasthan Legislative Assembly, and gave the act retrospective effect, removing the disqualification of Srimati Kanta Kathuria from a back date. And Supreme Court upheld the validity of this act, giving a retrospective effect. As on the same line, in the state of Uttar Pradesh, Jaya Bachchan was alleged to have the office of prophet under the state government, as she was holding the office in the Uttar Pradesh Film. She was chairperson of the Uttar Pradesh Film Development Council, and Election Commission disqualified her, and she filed an appeal in the Supreme Court. Uh, on 16 April 2006, the President disqualified, on the opinion of the Election Commission, Srimati Jaya Bachchan from continuing as a member of Council of States on the ground that she was holding enough office from under the government of Uttar Pradesh since 2014 as chairperson. This virtually opened a floodgate of petitions to the president and the governor of several states from every corner of the country, raising question of disqualification of hundreds of members of parliament and state legislature on the ground of holding of office of the prophet. By the middle of the May 2006, the Election Commission received references from the President and the Governor of several states seeking the Commission's opinion under Article 103 subclause 2 and 192 subclause 2 on the question of alleged disqualification of 46 members of the Parliament and 229 members of state legislature. While the question raised in those petitions were under process of inquiry by the Election Commission, the central government and several political parties felt concerned as many more members of the parliament could lose their seats. If the commission continued with its proceeding, this was the apprehension. After after you know after this thought, the central government decided to amend the Parliament Prevention of Disqualification Act 1959 so as to remove the disqualification in respect of the holders of various offices of the prophet, which were the subject matter of inquiry by the Election Commission. A bill was produced, namely as a Parliament Prevention of Disqualification Amendment Bill 2006, was accordingly introduced in the House of the People on 16th May 2006 so as to include 56 more offices in the exempted category of the offices the holder whereof were proposed to be declared not attracting the disqualification under Article 102 subclause 1G and here I and accordingly, after this enactment of this act, the Jaya Bachchan was declared qualified for the purpose. So this is all about the office of the prophet, and here I have discussed what is the meaning of office of prophet, office of prophet under the government and laws, the power of the parliament or state legislature to make law, to make some offices exempted, and the power of the parliament to make law to be operated from the retrospective effect, and finally what is the real intention or true object of this concept, the office of prophet be a disqualification to be chosen as a member of parliament or state legislature. The next topic is for the discussion will be qualifications for the membership of members for the membership of Parliament and State Legislature. By mistake, I have written you members. Thank you for watching me and listening me. Bye bye.